What's up, everybody? Cruel Legacy here. Got another special video for you today. Today we're going to be looking at a Halo Reach Forge guide. This is my first ever Halo Reach Forge guide. What we're going to be building today is a starting gate for a racetrack. The Halo Reach race mode doesn't include any kind of countdown at the beginning of the match, so to get a fair race going, you need to build some kind of starting gate mechanism yourself to make sure that everybody can start in at the exact same time. Here's what we're going to be building today. This is a more advanced version of the gate that I used in my coastline racetrack. It's going to be a 16-player gate. And what we're doing is creating a system where all 16 drivers are going to be held in place at the very beginning of the match for a few seconds. It gives everybody time to load in and get themselves situated and ready to go, and then the barriers drop and everybody is off to a fair and even start. So we're going to be building this on Forge World. I'm using the main hangar way off on the cliff edge of the map because you've got just a nice flat floor to work with, a nice even surface. What I'm doing at the start here is just placing some boundary walls and a panel on the floor just to kind of visualize where my starting grid is going to be. These two walls here being sort of the outer barriers, and the panel on the floor just helping me visualize where the cars are going to start. What we're going to do next is place a bunch of colosseum walls vertically through the floor. These are going to be used as barriers to separate all the cars into rows. So I'm going to be placing enough of them down here to have 8 rows. I'm going to have 8 rows of cars, and they're going to be stacked 2 rows deep. So a row of 8 in the front and a row of 8 in the back. You can see I'm just very roughly sliding the walls into place just to get enough walls down. Now I've generated a mongoose, and I'm going to use the mongoose to space out my rows. You can see I place it on one edge there, and then you're going to grab your wall and figure out how, your spacing based on just getting it as close to the mongoose as you can without actually touching it. You want to make sure that there's room for a mongoose to fit in the row without making contact to either wall, but still you want it to be as tight as possible because we're trying to fit a lot of cars side by side here. So once I get the spacing right, I'm just going to lower it down a little bit there till it's about the height of the floor panel that I've placed there. Now I don't need the floor anymore. I've got my basic spacing set out, so I get it out of the way. And I'm going to just move the mongoose from one row to the next and use it to space out the gaps between each wall. We'll speed it up again a little bit here in a moment. You get the basic idea of what we're going to be doing, so you just got to do this over and over again now till you get your whole starting row going. Once we get the walls spaced out, it's going to be a matter of then constructing the second level. Now I'm just counting my rows, making sure that I've got as many walls as I need, and you can see I don't quite have enough rows yet, so I throw down a couple of the extra colosseum walls. I'm going to have enough for my 8 rows now, and go back to spacing them out using the mongoose to measure the distance. Now I'm just looking at everything, making sure everything looks pretty even. Once you decide you're happy with how you've got your rows spaced out there, I'm going to be placing another barrier wall. This is going to be going behind the cars in the first row, so it's going to be stopping them from moving too far backwards, just sort of helping keep everybody pinned in place until the race actually starts. Now keep in mind you also need to leave enough room to have a barrier in front of the cars. So you can see that's what I'm placing now. This one is just going to get tucked in nicely into the cliff edge wall here. And when I'm finished with this, each of those 8 little pockets there should be just big enough to fit a mongoose in. The mongoose, remember, needs to be able to fit in these barriers without making contact on any of the 4 sides. You know, just tight enough to hold it in place so the drivers can't shift around too much before the race actually starts. I like to keep the barriers as low as possible, just so that you get nice sight lines. You know, you want the drivers to be able to see over them at the start of the race while they're waiting for everything to begin. So just make sure they're high enough that they can't drive over them, but low enough that they don't block your line of sight. And you should be able to pivot the camera around when you sit in the mongoose and get a nice view of the rest of the drivers. I'm just double checking all the spacing one last time, making subtle little adjustments here and there as I go. Another nice thing about using the hanger to build this starting gate is it's aligned at a perfect 90-degree angle to the map. So I'm using the snap function on the rotation. I've got it set to snap the pieces to 90-degree rotations. It makes it real easy to get your angles perfect. What I'm doing here now is I've got the first row set up more or less where I want it to be. So now we're placing another vertical wall. This is going to become the front barrier for the second row of cars. Now, the second row of cars is obviously going to be behind the front row, but also slightly above. I designed it this way so that the cars in the back row would have a nice view over top of the cars in the front row. I've got the front row set up basically how I want it. So now what we're going to be doing is placing spawns. So you're going to place 8 spawn points, 1 in each little pocket there. Make sure you center the spawns, you know, as perfectly in the center of those pockets as possible. You want the cars to spawn right smack in the middle of those little pockets. Now the trick to making this gate work, what's actually going to happen, as you saw in the clips at the beginning, is drivers are going to spawn in these containment areas. They're not going to be able to move. They're going to be held in place by the barrier walls around them. 10 seconds after the start of the match, a floor is going to spawn underneath them that elevates them. And so all of this floor is what I'm placing here now. It's going to spawn 10 seconds in, and it's going to lift everybody up over top of the barriers so that they can then drive forward without anything blocking their path. And so the way that you do this is you first of all get this floor in place. You can see I'm raising it so it's just high enough that it goes up and over the both the front barriers and the side barriers. You don't want anything poking up through this floor and getting in the way. It's got to be a smooth road to drive on. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this floor. I'm going to set the respawn timer to 10 seconds. And then I'm going to go into the advanced item options, and there's an option that says place at start, and I'm going to set that to false. So what we're telling the game is that that floor is not going to be there at the start of the match, but 10 seconds in it's going to appear. And that's the way you make it just pop up out of nowhere like that. This piece that I'm placing now is a little ramp for the drivers in the second row to use to get down as they move forward at the start of the race. I'm going to set the same options to this ramp as I did for that first little floor there. It is also going to spawn 10 seconds into the match. Again, you go to the advanced options and you set place at start to false, meaning again that ramp there is not going to be there at the very beginning of the race. So moving on now, I've got the ramp where I want it, the front row's looking good. I'm starting to place the barrier walls for the second row of cars now, up one level. Now you'll notice here, as I'm placing this, I'm staggering the barrier walls in the second row. What that means is that the cars in the second row are not going to spawn directly in line with the cars in the first row. They're going to spawn in between the first row. It's very important when you're doing racing grids to stagger the starting line like this. It just means that even if you spawn in the back row, you're not potentially blocked by a driver in front of you. If you drive straight forward, you should be able to fit directly between the cars in front of you. Just makes it nice for the drivers at the beginning of the race to have a clear line of sight ahead of the track. They're not just looking at the back of someone's car. So you're going to be basically following the same method for this second row as we did for the first row. You place all the barrier walls, and then you're going to use the mongoose to space them out. You can see I'm just doing a quick count there, making sure I've got enough rows, and I think I'm short one. Yeah, I've just got the 7 there, so I'm gonna add one more barrier wall, get one last row in there, and we're also going to use another colosseum wall to create an elevated floor, because again, this second row is going to be a little higher up than the first row. So I'm just adjusting my barriers here, making sure everything lines up properly, making sure that it's all sort of nice and tidy. You can see that that ramp, I accidentally nudged it out of the way. Well, that doesn't really matter now, though. I'll just get rid of it and go back and fix it later. I don't really need it for the moment anyway. So here we go. Now I'm creating the elevated floor for the second row. So this is the actual floor that the second row is going to spawn on. So I'm gonna, once I get this in place, I'm gonna put 8 more spawn points on that level, and then I'm going to go in and create a raised level above it that'll bump the second row of cars up. Exactly the same routine as you go through in the first row here, just using the mongoose to space out the walls. Again, you want to make sure that you can fit the mongoose into a row cleanly without the wheels making contact on either side. Here I'm jumping in and actually testing out the barriers, making sure that everything's high enough that I won't accidentally drive over the wall. Here I am again, just lowering the side barriers. Like I said before, I like to keep everything as low as possible so that the players aren't just staring at a bunch of gray walls at the beginning of the match. They should be able to see over them nicely. You just want them to be high enough to hold the cars in place. Another benefit to using this hangar room to build these starting gates is it helps you hide a lot of the excess pieces that are sticking down into the floor here. So now I'm placing, as you can see, the second row of spawn points. You'll notice I also have the rotation snap set to 90 degrees on the spawn points as well to make sure that they're all facing the exact right direction. So now I'm just sort of eyeballing them, making sure that they're lining up where I want them to be. Once I'm satisfied with where I have those, build another elevated floor. So again, this is the floor that's going to appear 10 seconds into the race, and it's going to bump all the drivers up. That was an accident. I accidentally grabbed the floor under them and moved it, so I'm just moving it back there now. Again, testing the barrier walls, making sure it's high enough. And now I'm going to put this into place, and then again you go into the options, set respawn time to 10 seconds, and go into advanced and set place at start to false. I'm keeping the barriers on the side a little higher because I don't want cars to be able to drive off the sides of the starting gate. Now I think what I'm doing here is, I've decided that I want to lower those barriers there a little bit. I don't like how much they're sticking up out of the floor, so I'm just lowering all these pieces a little bit here. I don't want it to be too substantial a bump when this floor appears out of nowhere and throws all the mongoose into the air. I want it to raise them up just a little bit. So I've got that where I want it now, and I'm going to replace that ramp. I'm just going to cut that out because you've seen me do that already. So you can see now the ramp's back in place. Those two pieces that I placed at the side at the very beginning, I'm closing them in now, using them to sort of just section off the whole thing on the sides. And now I'm going to go in and place the ramp that the cars are actually going to drive on as they leave the starting gate. Just make sure that's a nice clean joint there, a little bit of a downward ramp, and you're pretty much set. That's it. Just going to do a quick rotate around, make sure I'm happy with all the angles and happy with how everything's looking, and we're off to a good start here. You've got your starting gate ready to go. Thanks for watching. Head on over to CruelLEGACEYProductions.com for more tutorials and forge guides, as well as other videos and screenshots and just about anything else Halo related.